Greetings and salutations. I am he that's known as the Grand High Priest of the Mothman. You may address me as Argile McStankfist. Today I have a very special treat for you. I will be sending one of my lessers to the field, to the home of our Lord the Mothman, and he shall be reading to you from the grand tomes of the Great Mothman. Enjoy. Greetings and salutations. Today I shall be reading to you from the tomes of the Great Mothman, as instructed by his lordship, the great Lord Argile McStankfist. Let us begin. Let us begin with Catechism of Wise Hilary, the Scourge, as transcribed by Interpreter Jill. Time and again the wise Mothman come, and time and again the ignorant heard not the message he bore. They were deaf to his whispers, seeing only a monster, a spectre filling them with dread from a world they could not understand. The ignorant heard of his passing and believed not the witnesses, naming him a figment of delusional minds. Yet the wise Mothman was no emissary from other realms, nor was he a hallucination of the senses. Time and again the wise Mothman come, and time and again fools and dullards heard his whispers, yet understood it not. They were closed to his message, hearing only the echoes of their own small minds, bouncing within their skulls. The dim ones named him God, and fell to their knees, calling themselves chosen. Yet the wise Mothman was no sky-born deity, nor had he come to anoint them elect. Time and again has the wise Mothman come, and time and again the mad and twisted have rejected his message. They were attuned to other whispers, hearing the call of a thing beyond, drawn to the deep places of the earth for inhuman purposes. The broken heard the song of the interloper, and turned from the truth, scorning his wisdom as the product of mere mortals in favor of the unknowable. Yet the wise Mothman remains with us, and his truth shields us from the call. Wise Mothman whispered, and wise Charles heard and understood. He guarded us from the flood and the fire, and while others fell, we endured. While the dim ones succumbed to the delusions of holiness, we witnessed truth. While the mad were called to their chronic master, we spurned the slavery of the unliving. We are enlightened, and we know these things to be true. The wise Mothman is among us, and of us. The wise Mothman lives, and we feel his breath and hear the beat of his wings, and know that he is more alike to us than not. The wise Mothman comes to us, and shares with us his truth. The wise Mothman has found his truth through understanding the world as it is, and through observation we approach his understanding. His truth is a lesson. His truth is a warning. His truth is a path to enlightenment. We thank the wise Mothman who shares his truth with us, and reject the falseness of ignorant deniers, dull idolaters, and warp-minded servitors. We observe, we interpret, we listen to his whispers, and we become wise. And on we move to the sayings of interpreter Alicia, as recorded by observer James. The Wise Mothman is. The Wise Mothman was. The Wise Mothman will be. Before the flood, before the fire, before the dim ones, the Wise Mothman saw what its brethren could not, and the truth was known. The Wise Mothman sees not, for he has gifted his vision to you. The Wise Mothman flies not on wings, for his truth has lifted you up. The Wise Mothman bears no heart, for his beats inside the breast of us all who listen. The dim ones heard his message, and filled them with fear. They cowered and prayed and made of him a god. But this was not his truth. But some listened and understood, and they had no fear and became wise. The wise in turn bore his truth to us, and we listen, and scorned the dim ones who rejected the gift. We gather to witness the works and truth of the Wise Mothman, glorious Mothman, presage of doom, herald of salvation. We stand ready for your truth, as your wisdom has cracked wide the knowing of all things. So too shall we transcend the limits of human understanding, students of your gentle teaching. The ignorant are always welcome among us, for ignorance is the beginning of enlightenment. The ignorant may learn and hear, and in so doing the truth becomes known to them. Yet they may struggle to understand. So do the ignorant learn to observe and watch his signs, that they may return to the fold, bearing witness and add to our awareness of his truth. Having observed, they may come to understand and learn to interpret what has been witnessed and share this understanding with all of us. In the interpretation of what has been observed, we may all be fellows to the Wise Mothman and bearers of his truth. O lo, and shall we now move on to the exodus of the enlightened, as told to interpreter Michaela by wise Pearl of the Argile. It came to pass that the worshippers of the pretender Mothman, wise Charles then beginning among their number, did attempt to summon the Mothman and receive his glory. Charles alone heard the whispers of the Wise Mothman, and bore his warning of fire and flood, and guided his brethren to safety in the Lucky Hole mine. The mine sheltered the Mothman's faithful through the apocalypse, but they were turned to darker worship, and the time came for the wise Charles to see past the visions of the dim ones to the greater truth bestowed by the Wise Mothman. Some listened and heard, and when they could no more bear the corruption and falsehood of those who were once their brethren, the enlightened left behind the lies of the deceiver. The world was wild and dark, and many horrors awaited the enlightened in the lands outside the safety of the mine. Dark beast and strange pestilence stalked the land, and some among the enlightened fell to their knees, crying, "What has become of our home? Why have we survived when all is lost? Are we forsaken?" They called out to Charles to return to the mine and reject the truth, saying there was nothing for them here. The wise Charles smiled upon them then, and the light of the Mothman's wisdom shone as he spake to them, saying there was safety beyond the hills they had known. A lantern awaited them, a beacon of safety, and home for those that heard the truth and been enlightened. He would guide them, and they would fear neither beast nor plague, and would pass beyond the reach of the dim ones and the influence of the pretender, the deceiver. So did the enlightened journey from the bounds of West Virginia that was into the untouched by the scorched plague. There they founded their church, naming it the Lantern, as had been foreseen. Its light shines in darkness, a symbol of a truth no shadow can conquer, and it calls to the wise Mothman wherever he may be, telling him, "Here are those who hear your truth. Long may the lantern shine against the ignorance of the world, and never may the dim ones and the falsehoods of the red-eyed pretender snuff out its beacon." Now on we move, children, to the Observations, Volume 27, Annotations by Interpreter Walsh. Woods, Ohio, past midnight, gibbous moon. The howl of wolves is quieted by the wind-stirring flutter of tremendous wings. Silence settles over the forest, and I sleep unafraid. As the lesser creatures tame their ferocity under the calming influence of the wise Mothman, so too should we cultivate tranquility. Deserted town, Virginia. Galax, sign damaged. Dusk, waning crescent just above horizon. In silhouette against the dying sun, purple orbs shine from a shadow. I am certain it is no longer safe and must find new shelter. The wise Mothman oft appears to guide those with eyes to see and ears to listen. He is without malice, but in his wake travels darkness and danger. Mountain Trail, Tennessee. Late afternoon, storm clouds. A shadow passes overhead, gone before I can see it. The wind carries a fine gray powder, which clings to my face and hair. As students of his wisdom, we must remind ourselves that not everything is a lesson. The dim ones would rave about the holy blessing of his dust. We remember he is wise, but he is also a moth. Highway of Virginia, night, maybe an hour past full dark. New moon. Sitting at a campfire, I hear the beat of his wings and the sound of him alight behind me. I know he is not there to be seen, and I remain facing the fire. He whispers, and I see forests I have not walked, I awake with no memory of his departure. The sun rising in the east. Not all students can bear his truth when heard directly, and not all knowledge can be understood when learned. We hear his message and open our minds, but it's only when we are ready do we know its meaning. Watoga, West Virginia, nearly dawn. Moon had set. I saw the Wise Mothman eating a robo-brain. I was hiding in one of them porta-potty jobs, and the robo-brain was shooting all kinds of holes in it. And then the Wise Mothman swooped down out of nowhere and just stuffs the whole robo-brain into its mouth. And then he says, "It's all good, Dave," and flies away. Observer Dave has once again fallen prey to the lure of chems. Dave, not the Wise Mothman, unwittingly teaches us a lesson here. And yet now we are brought to this. On the thesis of Dr. Wallace, as told by Wise Martin the Bearded. Our benighted brethren among the dim ones, even in their misguided worship of the pretender, seek to know their false god better by increasing their understanding of him as a natural phenomenon. They make of him a supernal being, yet they have clamored and scrabbled for the writings of those who, like us, study the physical reality of the Mothman. So it was that the dim ones sought the lost manuscript of Dr. Wallace, an entomologist of some small repute, who wrote his doctoral thesis on the moths of the Appalachian region. The dim ones believed these writings would unlock the mysteries of the Mothman and bring upon them a clarity and wisdom that even they understood they lacked. The knowledge of one's own ignorance is the beginning of wisdom, as Benjamin Franklin noted. Yet even from this knowledge they reject the truth of the Wise Mothman. They believed the thesis of Dr. Wallace would enlighten them, when enlightenment was already theirs for those who would listen. The dim ones searched for his manuscript in the Kanawha County Cemetery, believing it entombed with him in the mausoleum there. Here we see the folly of their deification of the red-eyed pretender. For why should an entomologist be buried with their thesis? The dim ones imagined a sacred relic of divine truth, worthy of veneration, and a hallowed resting place. Yet Dr. Wallace was not of their number, and he to them his thesis was just another paper among many notable only for securing his doctoral credentials. Those who would seek his thesis, unblinded by the beliefs of the dim ones, would be better served stalking the libraries of the institution which granted Dr. Wallace his degree. I expect it waits there, if it survived at all, moldering unread among the hundreds of other student works. Perhaps it holds some small light that would help us understand the Wise Mothman's truths, but it is as likely filled with little more than study of ordinary moths. It is no grail awaiting a questing night. The Wise Mothman is here, and for those ready to listen, his truth is not hidden. And on we move, children, to a bit of warning for you all, for now we move to the book of the False Gods of Appalachia by Wise Nathaniel the Shadowed. The Wise Mothman calls the mountains and the woods of Appalachia home, yet the region is the haunt of other strangeness as well. These rolling hills are ancient beyond human comprehension, and what were once towering peaks to shame the Alps remain home to things likewise outside mortal experience. Many a credulous soul has attributed deific qualities to these things, as do the dim ones, and in so doing are deafened to the Wise Mothman's truth. Here I catalogue some of these false gods, that the students of his wisdom may not be led into the temptation of dark mysteries, which bear within them no light of knowledge. The deceiver Mothman and his progeny. As the Wise Mothman's eyes glow with the violet light of his wisdom, his unenlightened brethren's vision is cloaked in crimson. They and their spawn heed not the actions of humankind, nor care for us, making of us naught but prey and sport. The dim ones see them and think them gods, divine and sacred, and fall to the ground in obeisance. Be not deceived, student of truth. These fire-eyed Lepodertria are neither god nor angel, and have no wisdom to share. The Flatwoods monster. Shun this accursed creature, dear student. Should you cross paths with its haunting form, let not its amaranthine glow fool you. It shares no kinship to the Wise Mothman, and where his truth sets loose your mind from the fetters of falsehood, this hovering nightmare binds it. There is no wisdom to be found in such a being. Squatches of diverse shape. Many tell tales of encounters with beast people in the wilds of Appalachia, 8 men of giant stature and foul stench. Hybrids of human and livestock, goat and ram, even plants that walk and speak with vegetable minds, invading the thoughts of mortals. Some have observed these things, and we know them, but we likewise know that they are neither demon nor deity. Some have constructed totems to call or appease these creatures, and show themselves fools. A beast may come to food left to tempt it, or be frightened by a strange construction. This does not make it worthy of worship. The interloper. We who learned at the chitinous knee of the Wise Mothman, who hear his truth and observe the coming and going of him, must speak not of the interloper. There is no fouler deceit than one garbed in truth. Shun its call, for it can bring only darkness. And that today, children, concludes our readings of the sacred tomes of the Wise Mothman. Did you learn anything today? Well, fear not, for soon, I believe, he shall whisper in your ear too.